the day that two team members submitted resignation letters at one time in the same day and how I handled it. So I had a situation with some members on my team and I'm not bringing them back. And so I can actually discuss this on the podcast because I'm not bringing them back. And I want to let you know, this isn't nothing juicy. This isn't about bashing anyone or anything. These are about real life things that go on behind the scenes and how you have to navigate, how you have to learn how to trust yourself as a leader and how you have to move forward. Welcome to the Published and Paid podcast, where we share book, business, leadership, and life lessons in 20 minutes or less to help you build a thought leadership brand and business. My name is Jasminewomack. I'm a former middle school language arts teacher turned seven-figure entrepreneur, and I am glad that you are here. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Published and Paid podcast. Of course, I'm excited about this episode. In this episode, I'm getting a bit transparent because we're talking about team. And so one of the things that I wanted to do for 2025 was to start a leadership series, a leadership lessons series where I come and share with you lessons about leadership that I am learning and that I have learned. And so, yes, while I am a writing consultant and online business strategist, I also an expert in leadership. I have been in leadership since I was 16 years old, different leadership positions over the course of my lifetime. And at the time of this recording, I'm actually working on my doctorate in my Doctor of Education, my EDD, in leadership and curriculum. I actually hold a specialist degree in leadership, in educational leadership and curriculum as well. And so not only due to my professional expertise, but my experience of growing a business and managing team, hiring, I'm bringing that here. Oftentimes when people think about self-publishing, again, they limit it to books. But I want to remind you that when you self-publish, like creating a coaching program, you're publishing it. Delivering a signature speech, you are publishing it, right? And creating courses, any type of live events. And if you are packaging your intellectual property in any way, and creating an outlet for people to purchase said items in order to learn and grow, you are publishing. And part of that, you are developing, you are expanding yourself, you are growing if you allow yourself to do so. If you embrace the growth process, you're also developing into a new version of yourself. And part of that is leadership. That requires leadership. It requires self-leadership. It requires you to lead yourself. And of course, you're going to be working with people because you cannot do all the things. And so this is going to require you to lead as well in regards to being a business owner. And so this is where the leadership lessons series comes from. And we actually teach leadership within the Published and Paid Mastermind. And so it all comes together. And since I'm doing this work actively with my coaching clients, and I'm honestly doing the work with myself as well, I decided to make this a series where I'm going to come in every so often to talk about leadership lessons. Okay. And so this is the first installment of this leadership lesson series. And this will allow you to also search episodes on the podcast where you can come onto the podcast and type in leadership lessons. And that keyword should bring up the lessons about leadership that I will be recording from now and moving forward. And so leadership is required when you are self-publishing, right? You're going to be required to develop in your leadership. And I'm sitting here looking at my notes. If you're watching this on YouTube or in any other outlet, I'm looking at my notes. So when you see me looking to the side, that's what I'm doing. This is going to require you to develop in your leadership and also as an actual leader, with your team. So when we say self-leadership, we're talking mindset, we're talking discipline, we're talking time management, right? In leadership in your team, we're talking casting vision, we're talking guiding the direction of your company, we're talking about having clear, goals, clear milestones, and hiring teams that are going to be held accountable for not just doing tasks, but also completing these milestones to actually move the company further along to accomplishing your goals. And so today, I'm going to talk about the day that 2 team members submitted resignation letters at one time in the same day and how I handled it. So I had a situation with some members on my team and I'm not bringing them back. And so I can actually discuss this on the podcast because I'm not bringing them back. And I want to let you know, this isn't nothing juicy. This isn't about bashing anyone or anything. These are about real life things that go on behind the scenes and how you have to navigate, how you have to learn how to trust yourself as a leader and how you have to move forward. So at one point in time, I have coaches too. Like you may have a coach, you may be thinking about hiring me as a coach or whatnot, or you may not have ever had a business coach or a book coach before, but I keep a coach. I believe that every coach should have a coach. And so at one point in time, I had a few coaches that I was working with simultaneously. And I was working with them on different things. They specialize in different things, which was why I had multiple coaches at the same time. And so during this particular year, all of the coaches that I hired, they were all talking about the importance of hiring employees. You got to hire employees. You got to hire employees. They weren't necessarily given too much more context outside of you have to hire full-time employees because contractors are expensive and they're just not it, right? And so around that same time, I had read an article. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the company Gumroad, but Gumroad is a tech company that allows you to sell digital products. It also provides payment processing for said digital products. And I had read about this company Gumroad that had hired all contractors to do the work to run the business. And they did all of the work asynchronously. That is the thing that gave me the idea. I said, you know what? I want to go against, I don't want to be status quo. I want to try something different. I want to see if I can be the anomaly and hire all contractors to work to help me grow the business, right? And I wanted to see if it was possible to do what Gumroad had done. I thought that it might have been less responsibility. It might have been, more economical. And I was just like, listen, if other companies are doing this, then I should be able to do it too. Let me tell you, it took about 2 to 3 years for my personal light bulb to go off. But here is what I've learned in that situation. Now, of course, yes, over the years, I found great work on sites such as Upwork and Fiverr. And at one particular point last year, I was in need of an executive assistant. I had let my longtime executive assistant go due to some repeated mistakes she was making with money. And so I went to Upwork to see if I could find someone. My goal was to hire an overseas contractor to be a part of my team. And I found someone who was amazing. And I hired her to work for about 6 hours per day, right? I took her through my hiring process that I had at the time, and things checked out. And she started out great. She was great with skill. She had a positive attitude. She was a strong English language speaker. She was actually taught English. And so I hired her. Things started out great. I was able to teach her a lot of skills. And because she was eager to learn, she was mastering things. And she was on top of things. And in the beginning, she was really, really good. And so after about 5 months of training her, where I knew that I could just let her have at it with the things that she was doing, I wanted to expand her capacity. And that's when I started seeing breakdown come in, with adding, trying to get her to learn some different things take on more responsibilities like we had discussed when she was hired. But I was also looking for someone for sales. I needed someone to handle prospecting, someone to handle outreaching. And so during this time, she actually recommended her husband because he had a background in sales and in prospecting. She shared with me that he was working in pretty abusive job conditions where the leadership was just poor. There was an abusive leadership. He was being just demeaned a lot. And so I had some reservations behind hiring a husband and wife couple. I had several reservations because, for several reasons. It's just like if they have something going on personally, are they going to bring it into the job? If one leaves, are they both going to leave? Like you have all of those different things, right? All those different concerns. However, I ignored my concerns and I'm like, okay, I just need someone for this position. Let me interview him. I interviewed him. He checked out great. And we were on the move. I put him through a training, through a course that I had purchased. I was working with him. And so we were on the move and everything was going great until it wasn't. After a while, I began to see some things begin to shift. It started taking him a while to respond. She became unresponsive in Slack, was late on things, was not, keeping track of our metrics. And so I decided to have a conversation with my team member. And she informed me that, yes, things had changed because I was like, things weren't like this 2 months ago. Like, what's happened? And so she had just changes in her family. There had been, some things that had happened. And so she had to assume the responsibility of caretaker overnight. And it was just really pulling a lot out of her. And so I had a conversation with her like, hey, I understand that things happen, but you got to communicate, right? Like, you got to communicate because we're here calling you or we're tagging you in Slack during the hours that you've agreed to be online and there's no response. And we're wondering what's going on when all of this really could have just kind of been handled with the conversation and with some modifications, And then I also let her know, like, while I empathize with what you have going on personally, I am paying you for what we agreed upon, for the agreed upon rate, for the agreed upon time. And that's not happening. So I'm essentially paying and you're getting paid for free because you're not here and the things aren't getting done. And so we had a conversation about that. And, I told her at work, I said, hey, well, how long do you think this is going to continue? This, that, and the third, and I said, well, I'll work with you. I value your time. I value your presence here. I will, work with you. I'm not sure that we'll be able to do it for this amount of time. You say this is going to be going on, but for right now, at least for the next month or two, I'm willing to work with you. So we ran into the holidays, gave her and the other her spouse, paid time off, for like 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks or something. And then once the new year started, they came back, hey, we're ready to get started, this, that, and the third. And when we began saying, hey, these are the deadlines, we need these updates, just in terms of keeping track of our KPIs, they both sent in a resignation letter about an hour apart. And I wasn't surprised. I actually was relieved because it had come the point in time where I knew that I was going to have a conversation that I didn't want to have. And I had been praying about it. And the whole situation was eye-opening for me. I wasn't upset. I was just like, okay, well, now I have to jump back into this or figure out how we're going to get certain things done. But here's what I learned. The first thing that I always do, especially when it's regarding team, is I never look at, oh, they did this, they did that. I asked myself, is there anything that I could have done better as a leader? Or what did I miss in this situation? How did I show up? What did I do well? What did I do poorly? And is there any way that I missed the mark? I think that oftentimes, especially in the online education space and when you're hiring team and you're working with others, a lot of people are quick to point the finger, but in leadership, you have to look at yourself first. And so that's what I always do. Where did I go? Did I go wrong on this? And if so, where? Where were my blind spots? How could I have showed up better? What were some things that I missed? Did I do everything that I could have done to support them? Was I fair? Was I overbearing? Was I this or was I that? And I came to the conclusion, not only was I fair, but I was extremely gracious, and I was very clear in my communication. And I don't think that there was any party that was at fault. I just felt like what I needed in terms of team, they could no longer give. And they could not show up in that capacity. And they knew it, or they weren't willing to, due to a change in their personal circumstances. And they knew it. And so they decided to step away. You can feel when something isn't working out. And it's just like, okay, either they're going to fire me soon, they're going to let me go soon, or if they have like a very high personal standard, it's just like, I'm not meeting up to that standard, or this has become stressful for me because I can't do this at the level that I was. And so a lot of times people end up just walking away. I think that when we delay conversations, we're actually not only delaying our own progress and growth in business, but we're also stifling and blocking other opportunities for our team as well. You follow me? Because it can always be felt. And so here's what I learned. Number one, don't try to make a contractor an employee unless they express interest in working full time. I went into this saying, hey, I want a contractor to work full-time hours, right? But I want them to be flexible. I want them to kind of be able to do it on their own time, that type of thing. But I need a dedicated person. I just didn't need, you got to be right here, right now, dressed in this, working from here. It was absolutely a flexible type of a remote situation, but I needed the time. However, and I wanted the buy-in, and I needed the responsibility, the ownership of responsibility. But here is what I learned. If you hire a contractor, you got to understand that that's what they are. Like, they're doing what they want to do. And typically contractors all like doing contract work because they can choose who they want to work with. They can do it on their own time. Trying to turn a contractor into an employee almost never works out because there's a mindset there. I'm not saying that with a negative connotation. I'm just saying that this is what it is, right? Like, a lot of times contractors like to work with who they want to work with. They like to set their own hours. They like to determine what they want to do. They like to determine the type of work they want to do. Whereas employees have more buy-in and there's more responsibility of said thing. Like, they're responsible not just for doing the thing, but for achieving outcomes. Whereas contractors are responsible for completing tasks, whereas employees are responsible for achieving outcomes. And that's what they agreed to. And so I was sitting there working with these contractors and I'm trying to work with them. I'm bending over backwards, this, that, and the third. At the end of the day, they chose themselves. They chose what was best for them. They said, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to do contract work. Whereas if you bring on someone that has said, listen, I believe in what you do, I want to help you grow this, then that's somebody that you can go, that you can work with and that you can bring on for the long term. And not just in terms of helping them to accomplish their professional goals and their income goals, but helping them to accomplish some of their personal goals as well. So contractors will almost always choose themselves before, like, you'll be loyal to them, trying to bend over backwards, trying to do all the things while they're loyal to themselves. I'm telling you, I have seen this time and time and time again. It hasn't been one situation where I've hired a contractor that wasn't loyal while I'm sitting up there trying to bend over backwards, trying to make sure that I'm helping them out, doing all the things. I'm loyal to them. They're loyal to themselves to the end. And in terms of loyalty, it's got to be reciprocal. So if you're going to be loyal to somebody and be willing to work with somebody and bend over backwards, it needs to be somebody that has shown that same level of loyalty and dedication and commitment to growth. And typically that comes with employment, right? What I also learned is that with what I was paying these contractors each month for completing tasks, I really could have hired a part-time or potentially even a full-time employee for that. You're looking at allocation of funds and use of time. Allocation of funds, use of time, and responsibility. And one thing about me, I have never wanted a super huge team. I've always wanted a pretty close-knit team where everyone can be responsible for various things, right? That's just what I've always wanted. I don't want to be the person with a suit. I just never wanted that. I never want to be that person that had like 20 or 30 employees. I think like 5 might be the most I want, like honestly. And that's me, especially at this stage of my life where I have children. I have a husband who's also an entrepreneur. You know, I'm shuffling back and forth between practices, homework, school activities, and all the things. I don't want all that. I don't. I'm very, very clear about what I want. And so you have to be clear about what you want. And you have to be able and willing to tune out the noise that you hear and that you might be listening to from various people in social media, because what they have might look good, but it may or may not work for you based on your capacity and based on where you are in life, but you're the only person that knows that. And so when you are hiring, you have to be very, very mindful of how your dollars are being allocated. Because if you have too many contractors and you find yourself paying out tens of thousands of dollars every single month, or thousands of dollars every single month, the question is, could your dollars go further by hiring an employee, or at least a part-time employee, as opposed to multiple contractors to just do specific tasks for specific time blocks? All right. Number 3, and this was reiterated. This was something that I already knew, but I'm like really honing into it now. And I've been full-time entrepreneur for 7, 8 years. It's taken me some time to really, I guess, embrace this. But y'all, make the hard decisions as soon as possible. When you start feeling a certain kind of way, or when you start feeling some type of dissension or disequilibrium in your spirit, 9 times regarding, a team member, 9 times out of 10, they're feeling it too. And so what happens, they will actually be relieved if you say something. You can't wait on them to do something. Right? And so make the hard decisions as soon as possible. Don't stall it. Because when you stall it, you're actually costing yourself time. You're costing yourself more money, right? You're literally costing yourself stress. Like you're creating more stress for yourself, more anxiety. Make the hard decisions as soon as possible. Number 4, you can teach skills, but you cannot teach mindset. And one of the things that I've learned from this and through this course that I took called How to CEO with Adrian Dorison is that you cannot teach attitude. Attitude is internal. You can teach skill set. So when you're hiring, of course, you're going to have test projects where they're doing certain things, but you have to hire for mindset and attitude. You can teach the skill. The skill set can be taught. You can enroll them into a course. You can have them to go through like different processes and procedures, but you cannot hire for attitude. Case in point, what do I mean by that? I had a few situations that came up with this particular VA, that were red flags. And as soon as it happened, I said something to my ops manager. I said, I already know I'm going to have to let her go, because that mindset, I can't do. That mindset that has no place in a $1.5 million company. So one of the things that I say to myself, I always ask myself, does this fit with the type of future that I want? Does this fit with the type of company that I want? So I asked myself at the $1.5 million or the $2 million level, would this fit? And if the answer is no, there's no space for it. So there was a situation that happened and it was extremely simple, that I asked her to take some recordings and make sure that they're on the private coaching boards for my elite clients. I said, hey, I had all my coaching sessions with my elite clients. Please take the transcription from Read and also grab the video recordings and put them on their Trello boards. I've added you to Trello, and put on there, I put it in ClickUp, here's the due date. And on top of that, I gave her a video. I gave her a video where I went over the process and showed step-by-step how to do it. 24 hours, it literally would have taken like 15 minutes. 24 hours later, it wasn't done. At the end of the week, it wasn't done. So I said, tap, tap, tap. Hey, well, I noticed that this wasn't done. I asked for this to be done at the beginning of the week. This is something that you're going to have to take over, where within 24 hours of my one-on-ones, the recordings need to be loaded. What happened? She responded, well, I didn't know how to do it, and so I didn't do it. Why didn't you do it? Well, I was a little bit intimidated because it was new. Okay. Well, did you look at the video that I sent? Well, no, I saw that you sent the video, but I didn't look. Okay. Did you Google? Did you use Google to find any processes? No. Okay, so you just didn't do it. I said, I explained the process step by step in the video. If you watch it, you'll be able to do it. So she apologized. I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm failing. Listen, just watch the video, right? I don't get into emotions because that's not mine to handle. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was quite simple, right? So she came back and said, well, I watched the video. You're right. It's extremely simple. I'm so sorry. I could have done this. So it was something else that's similar that happened when I asked her to do something in Kajabi, and it just went undone because she was intimidated by it. And I said, with all the tech people that we have, who did you ask? Did you ask the tech team? Did you ask Jonay? Did you look on YouTube? Did you Google? Like, everything in Kajabi is on Kajabi blog. And the answer was no. And so what I realized is that she had the type of personality where if it was something that was unfamiliar, she would just clam up, and instead of asking questions or seeking the answer out, she just wouldn't do it at all. And that's the way that, like, dealing with stuff like that, that's when you find customer experience goes down. That's when you find that things aren't getting done, literally because not only is somebody just not doing it, but they're also not communicating. They're also not saying, hey, I'm a little bit intimidated by this, or I don't know how to do this. Can you explain this part? Not only are they not doing it, they're not using resources, whether it's the team, YouTube, Google, ChatGPT to figure it out, but they're also not saying anything. And there's just no space for that in my company. You follow what I'm saying? So it was when those types of things start happening on repeat, I already knew that I was going to have to make a change and like really move her to project based and move her out of the position she was in because of that. And that just wasn't something that could happen. So it wasn't something that I was willing to risk happening. And so that's what I mean by you can teach skills, but you cannot teach mindset. And so I realized, even though I have a very thorough hiring process, I realized that my test project did not include assignments testing for it tested for critical thinking, but attitude, mindset, and behaviors. And so I've had to since revamp my hiring process to include questions, tasks, and things of that nature that might seem like a ball out of left field, so to speak, but it's really to see how you're going to respond, how you're going to act. What are your thinking processes going to be? Are you going to just not do anything at all? Right? And one of the things that you got to understand that a lot of contractors are doers, not thinkers. Like they're going to do the thing. They're going to do what you ask them to do unless you hire a strategist is different. A strategist thinks. But if you hire a contractor, many of them are they're doers, not thinkers. They're going to do the task. And so this is why you got to know what you actually need for a role, because you can hire project-based contractors who come in and complete a task. But if you need someone to help think about things and create ideas, then that's going to be someone that has a bit more commitment. Or you're going to hire someone to fulfill a project who is a strategist who can flush things out for you. So here's how I responded. Number one, I was relieved because I had been praying about the situation, and I don't like having firing conversations. I just don't like it, but it's absolutely required. And the decision was made for me literally within 24 hours of me praying about it. So I was relieved about that. And so I sent an email, just thanking them for their time and even saying, hey, we can get together on some project-based things. Let me know what types of things, you'd like to do. I also learned that moving forward, I'll have somebody else as a middleman when dealing with hiring and firing decisions and things like that, because I just don't like it. There are things in business that I enjoy. There are things in business that I don't enjoy, and that's one of the things I don't enjoy. So since I don't enjoy it, I'm going to outsource it. I also realized that the marketing agency that I had recently hired before all this happened actually had a different package that took care of everything except for sales prospecting that the VAs that I hired was doing. And so when both of those VAs left, I actually was able to up-level my package with the marketing agency that I use, and I was able to save money and get everything done. So it was a win-win. And so this is where it comes to even making hard decisions. A lot of times people don't necessarily like layoffs or whatnot, but when you are in business, it's not about, and I'm not talking about corporately, I'm talking about in your business. You can do what you need to do relationship-wise, but at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. And there's no point, like if you're double paying for services, or if you're paying 2 or 3 people to do things that one person or one agency can do, you're actually losing money. And it's more on you because now you have more people and things to manage. So I was actually able to up-level my package to the marketing agency's highest tier. I have someone who handles my account that I correspond with. They put everything in their dashboard in terms of deadlines and everything. I don't have to manage that. And I was actually able to save money. So for me, it was a win-win. And I decided that moving forward, I would hire contractors for project-based work. This is like one-time projects, one-time tasks, or short-term type of things, like for small hourly things, but dedicated positions, day in, day out, around the clock, that requires a different level of commitment, and that's where employees come in. Because you want the focus and the loyalty of people who believe in your mission and your vision and who want to work with you to make it happen because they believe in what you're doing. And they don't just see you as just another check or a way to meet their income or personal goals. And you also got to be careful of hiring contractors of people who just want to use you and be in the spotlight. Oh, I work with this person. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to work with people who want to see you win and who want to win with you, and they want to be a part of the movement. Because it's not even about you personally, it's about your clients. It's about your mission. It's about what you are accomplishing in the world through the work that you do. So in closing, I want you to remember that leadership is a journey, and sometimes the biggest lessons come through hard decisions and unexpected shifts. This experience taught me that hiring is not just about skill. It's about mindset. It's about alignment. It's about commitment. Yes, contractors serve a purpose, but when you need true ownership in a role, employees are the way to go. At the end of the day, your business thrives when you have the right people in the right seats. And if someone is not fully invested, they will eventually check out. They will eventually check out. And so it's up to you as a leader to recognize the signs and make the necessary adjustments. So my challenge to you is this: evaluate your leadership, evaluate your team. Are you hiring people who are just checking a box, or are you bringing in those who truly align with your mission? Are you delaying the hard decisions that are holding your business back? Growth requires letting go. And when you release the wrong fits, you make space for the right ones. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Published and Paid podcast. Now, listen, if you are building or want to build a profitable online education, coaching education business, and you need help with developing your curriculum-based offers, your launch systems, your hiring and training processes, and more, I invite you to apply to the Published and Paid Mastermind. The Published and Paid Mastermind is a 12-month group coaching program designed to help you build your thought leadership empire. This means writing and self-publishing your thought leadership book, your curriculum-based coaching program, as well as funnel development, launch and sales process, client and team retention, and more. So we're going to put the link here in the show notes. And if you're listening to this via audio, you can go to www.jasminewomack.com/mastermind application. www.jasminewomack.com/mastermind application. This is a 17-question application, and it will take you about 5 minutes to complete it. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with a fellow entrepreneur, and don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, peace, love, and impact.